Hey everybody, hope you're all doing well. My name is Steven and this is the Storytime channel. We've got some very satisfying malicious compliance stories, so let's jump right into our first one of the day by crowskull38. Don't do extra? Okay. Stop working here? Sounds good. Hey all, sorry but this is a long one. Allow me to start by painting a picture. This was about 3 years ago. I was working in the bakery of a local high-end grocer. Think gourmet Whole Foods, and had been there 3 years. What started as a college job for a semester turned out to be a longer-term thing. I loved the work, the customers, and my coworkers. That is, until the final month there. I was online for a promotion to assistant manager. In my time there, I had been passed over for different promotions for people that were more favorable for the company image. When the position came up, I was the only person across the company that applied. I thought I was a shoo-in and had been led to believe that it was as good as mine. The old assistant manager was transferring to a higher position and took extra time to train me before leaving. Weeks passed and I heard no news. No one in my department was getting an answer for when I'd be given the step up. That was until someone elsewhere asked us when the new assistant manager was transferring in from another store. Turned out that my boss's boss, we'll call him Greg, decided that I was a terrible fit and went above her to push someone into the role, someone that didn't want it and hadn't been trained for it. I complained to someone higher up, saying I should have at least been told that the decision was reversed. No word came and the new assistant manager started. It only took a couple days to realize that she had barely worked in the bakery and had not been trained for her position. She also seemed to target me, assuming that I didn't know how to do the most basic things we did. I later found out that Greg told her I was a problem employee and needed to be watched closely and given guidance. Out of the blue, our manager was given the boot and replaced. She had no warning, we had no warning, and suddenly someone from a completely different store and department was in her position. This person had no clue how to do the job, and with the training that the old assistant manager gave me, I took over most of the day-to-day tasks. Greg came in one day and threw a fit that I was doing inventory. He said that I had no place acting like I was in charge and doing jobs that weren't meant for people like me. Fine. Inventory? Not getting done. Dating and tossing old product? Not my problem now. Helping customers with issues and complaints? Let me grab the manager instead. Making sure things are filed and ordered when needed? No, thanks. I started doing the bare minimum, took all of my breaks, clocked in exactly when my shift was scheduled, and left exactly when it ended, no matter what I was doing. They didn't want me to go outside my station, then I wouldn't. Easy days for me. Suddenly, issues popped up left and right, and our new management was scrambling to figure things out. I told them nothing since it wasn't my place to teach them how to do their jobs. This all came to an end when I was called into a meeting with the store manager. We'll call him Rob.
Greg has told me that you've had a lot of issues lately.
I bet he has. I'm just doing my job now. He told me to.
Well, he told your manager to stop scheduling you after today. He wanted me to tell you.
Are you firing me?
No, Greg said that you won't be scheduled, but you may be used as an emergency call-in during the holidays.
I'm not working, but I'm not fired? This is bull.
I agree, but he's above me when it comes to what happens in your department.
Alright, I'll finish today, but after that, I'm done. This is some stupid work politics and I'm not playing this game with him. I kept my word and finished my shift without complaint. As soon as the end hit, I walked away and clocked out. That's when I told my coworkers what had happened during that meeting. I bid them farewell and walked out. The next morning, I was woken up before sunrise by a call from Greg. He said that almost everyone in our department had quit overnight and he needed me in to open. I reminded him that he didn't want me there, so I quit. He demanded I return and help train a new team, so I did what anyone would do. I told him to do it himself, go freak himself, and hung up. Last I heard from a few friends that are still with the company, our department didn't really recover all the way, and people still talk about how we all left together one day. If you see this and recognize the story, freak you, Greg. Let me ask you a theoretical. If this was you and you knew how they treated you very badly like this, and constantly overlooked you, tried to throw you under the bus, called you a problem employee, if they offered you a raise to come back and train a new team, would you have done it, or would you have stood your ground and stayed separate from that job? Let me know in the comments down below. The next story was written by ChrisPUT. You wanna smell my breath? Back when I was in my late teens, I was driving back from my friend's house and I took a corner a little fast and noticed, in my rear view, a cop turn around behind me. I was headed to Main Street where I would have turned north to head home, but I wanted to see if he was following me or just headed the same direction, so I crossed Main Street and went 2 blocks east, turned right, pulled over and shut off my lights. He kept going east. Now, what I should have done was just driven south a block and headed back to Main and home. What I did was flip around and then go back the way I came so I could check on him. Once again, he turned around and started following me. I headed up Main Street driving normally. I would use my signal to change lanes and he would change lanes to remain behind me. After a couple of blocks of this, I signaled right, changed lanes and then turned right before he had a chance to change lanes. He still followed. I turned left at the next street thinking I would swing by my friend's house, but then thought, screw this, I'm going home. It was pretty late anyway. So I go back to Main Street and head north. At this point, he finally pulls me over. He wanders up and asks where I'm going. I tell him home. He says that he noticed me going a little fast around the corner, and I said, yeah, sorry. He asks why I drove up to 2nd East. I replied, to see if you were following me. He asks why I turned off Main Street just before he pulled me over. To see if you were still following me. He asks if I've had anything to drink. I said, just root beer. Now here's the thing. That summer, Shasta was on sale for like $2.50 a case. That's 24, not a 12-pack. So we were buying and drinking root beer like it was going out of style. Plus, my friend was Vietnamese, so we'd been eating some smelly food. The officer's next question,
Can I smell your breath?
Cue malicious compliance. Sure, I said, and then I let him have it. He coughed and grunted an okay or something like that. He said, you're going home? I said, yes. He said, all right, go on then, have a good night. I think some of my favorite police interactions I've had are when I blatantly tell the truth. Oh man, I can only imagine the potential combinations of food to give you the perfect breath blast to deliver to this officer here in that moment. It's probably a pretty normal thing for police officers to do, but I wouldn't want to go around trying to smell people's breath like that. It sounds kind of gross. The next story is by BandNerd Cat 19. Just leave it, we can do laundry on Saturday. When I was in my early 20s, I had a boyfriend and we lived together the last 6 months of our relationship. We lived together and his twin 7-year-old daughters. It was a small space with a small washer and dryer. As you can imagine, the hamper filled up quickly. So I did laundry every day or every other day. Wash, dry, fold, sort into piles. I'd give the girls their clothes and they would put them away. I'd put mine away and I'd give him his. After a few weeks of this, he got frustrated at me.
I'm tired. Every night all I want to do is go to bed and you hand me a stack of laundry to put away. Just leave it, we can do it on Saturday.
I'm sitting here thinking, you ungrateful jerk. I wash, I dry, I fold, I sort for me and you and your, not mine, twin kids, and all I ask is you put your own clothes away. It would have taken 5 minutes. So I said, okay. And I stopped doing his laundry and their laundry. Not grateful for doing you a favor and helping care for your kids? No problem, I'm happy to stop. But I kept doing mine. He didn't really notice until one day he's like,
hey, I'm almost out of clean clothes.
I just shrugged and said, I guess you better do some laundry then. His mouth was just hanging open in shock. It was glorious when he saw the mound of clothes and realized that none of them were mine. At least in my case, if somebody was actively doing my laundry for me to the point where all I'm doing is receiving completely folded and sorted clothes, I would be incredibly grateful for that. Yeah, you might get bored or it may feel tedious having to put away your clothes every day or every other day, and when you've had a really long day you might just not want to do it, but it takes 5 minutes, and heck, if you really don't want to do it, just skip it for a day, and then just do it the next day with the rest of the clothes you get. It's not a big deal, and it's really rude to the people that spend their time delivering those washed clothes to you like that. The next story was written by KnowsIittle. Transfer request denied, here's my notice. I made the mistake of giving 6 months notice. Wasn't happy with my position, request to transfer to another department denied. I said I would be leaving before the winter season. Problem is, my transfer was denied because I was the only one in my department being stretched across doing the work of 3 people, while simultaneously being unable to implement ideas to make my job easier or more efficient. I had enough. I liked the company and the people that worked for it, but my supervisor was the type to take credit for my achievements while throwing you under the bus if something went wrong. Anyways, 3 months go by and I try approaching the subject of training a replacement soon. That blows up in my face as they take it as me trying to be managerial, told I'm a cog and to do what you're told and nothing more. Before that talk, much of what I did was things I set in place with little to no training from my supervisor. As you can imagine, my work performance dropped remarkably. Next 3 months, I kept my head low and mouth shut while quietly tossing out any charts or sheets I had developed to organize my day-to-day operations. Fall rolled around, no trainee in sight, which I had been perfectly willing to train before. Ended up putting in a 2-week notice to which they acted surprised. Given my recent performance, I'm certain my supervisor had many negative things to say about me. Later heard from a former coworker that it had taken them nearly 4 months to hire a replacement, which meant my supervisor was left trying to do my job and theirs for the past 4 months. I think this is just an obvious higher-up fail. You can't have one person stretched so thinly and think that they're going to be happy maintaining that. Obviously, OP had concerns. Obviously, OP wanted some help or they wanted out of that department. They weren't allowing them. They felt trapped. What are they going to do? Stay there? For their mental health, I would hope that they wouldn't, and obviously OP didn't and left the supervisor having to try and pick up the slack, which I hope was as stressful for them as it was for OP. Our next story is by qrpc, Malicious Overcompliance. A friend of mine was working for a company that served a small niche market. They were in fierce competition with one other company. There were others out there, but only 2 were major players. After a few years and a couple promotions, he realized some company practices were clearly unethical and probably illegal as well. I remember him saying one day how he needed to get out of there because people were going to end up in jail. He got an interview with a company in a different industry. He didn't actually get the job he interviewed for, but they thought he was perfect for a new division they were starting up soon. The problem was that he wouldn't be up and running for about 2 months. Still, he was anxious to leave his old job and he accepted the offer on the spot. The old company required 2 weeks' notice, and he had seen them go out of their way to make employees' last 2 weeks as miserable as possible. But he had a plan. He would over-comply. He told his boss the next day and said he was starting another job in 8 weeks. When asked where he would be working, he politely said, "I'd rather not say." As he expected, they automatically assumed he was going to work for the competition. They also assumed that since he wasn't admitting it, he must be planning to take clients with him, steal trade secrets, or something else. Within an hour, he was locked out of his computer. Then both HR and security showed up to tell him he was being put on paid leave for his final 8 weeks and escort him out of the building. He did very well in his new career. Within a few years, his old company was bankrupt and some of the management, including his old boss, were convicted of fraud and other charges. Now this is a very smart guy. He saw the writing on the wall. He knew he had to get out of there. He saw that the timing was right. Now's the time, and he got right out of there. And not only did he practically fire himself out of a cannon getting out of that place, but he also finagled them into thinking he was leaving for the competition and got 8 weeks of paid vacation practically. One smart dude. And our final story of the day is by Anakor, take down this sign? Sure thing, boss. Hi all, some face covering maliciousness for you. Please note I am not in the US, so this is separate to the mask debate going over there. My workplace has members of the public who wander in. We are all balancing conditions of entry that are safe for our staff and other people, as well as trying to not exclude people from using our services. Our government has flip-flopped about recently as to which buildings have mandatory face covering rules. We are not one. But as a good boss who wants to look after his staff, I created a sign on my own recommending face coverings for people entering. I put up a number around the building from the entrance to the service point because, as everyone who has ever tried to inform the public, people do not read signs. This is especially true of my own boss, who visited us yesterday on a surprise visit. She walked right through the door and started bossing about. After chatting to some staff, she noticed the sign by the desk. You can't have this sign up. Why not? We're only recommending masks, not saying they're mandatory. You can't be saying this. All of our locations need to be saying the same message. Please take the sign down. This one? Sure thing. And I took that one down. All was well. She was happy she had got her way and gathered up her things to leave. She didn't say anything about taking down the other signs, which she didn't notice, of course. That's really the sad truth about the public, and in this case, the boss. You try to put signs up or you try to put some kind of notification out there, but people just don't see it, people just don't read it, people choose to ignore it. You practically have to put big, shiny, blinking lights and neon yellow and green and blues and whatnot just to get people to see these things. But hey, in this case, it actually paid off for OP and their staff. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today, so if you have a favorite story of the day, let me know which one and why in the comments down below. But besides that, if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like and subscribe if you haven't. And make sure to click the bell to turn notifications on too so you'll never miss an upcoming video. No matter what you did, whether it was liking, commenting, subscribing, thank you for supporting me right here on the Storytime channel. It all helps the channel grow immensely, so thank you so very much for supporting me. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and until next time, I'll be reading even more stories to share with you guys right here on the Storytime channel.